Hey, what's up? Well, I'm back again, back with another video, and I'm on a roll. Right now, I'm very happy because thus far we've had a pretty good beginning of October. I hope it stays that way, and I'm wearing my pink tourmaline again. Um, what I'd like to talk about in this video is a number of things. First of all, I'd like to start out by saying that I've been working on a project. I basically made a clock. How I did that is kind of a long story, but unfortunately, it's a clock that doesn't really work, and that's another story too. Um, it'll only be right twice a day. What happened was many years ago, it's like I wanted a purple clock for my bedroom. Okay, I like purple, and at the time I had Sophia the First on display, and I bought me a pretty purple curtain rod, and I really wanted, I don't know what it is about purple. It's very difficult to buy a lot of things that are purple. I don't know what it is. It's easy to find pink, it's easy to find blue, and many other colors, but purple is just kind of an oddball. And so there were no purple clocks at the store. But I found this clock and it had a different background. Okay, it was a little different. It wasn't bad. But for many years it was at the apartment. And I was okay with it the way that it was. Okay, but the problem was that somehow or another the background, the way that it was glued on there, caused it to buckle. And I don't know, it's like the heat, the humidity in the air just caused the background, to wrinkle up because it wasn't glued evenly. And as that happened, it sort of affected the hands and its ability to keep time. And I noticed that it was gaining time abnormally. And I would change the batteries and it didn't improve it. Okay. But then in the moving process, I moved a number of things ahead of most of our stuff to this house. And I was going to bring this old purple clock and stick it somewhere on a nail, on some pre-existing nail in the wall. And I did. I brought it. I put it in a plastic container in my dad's old truck that ended up being stolen later. But what happened was very sad. This clock finished destroying itself somehow because the heat of the sun shining down on that plastic container caused the background, which was just, basically a sticker or something glued onto it, caused the background to finish buckling or wrinkling because the heat melted the glue, and it was just a disaster. Like the hands were all but falling off. They were so loose. As a result of that, it may have damaged the mechanism in the back or something. And so here I had this broken clock that could only be right twice a day. And for a while, I just used it as a decorative clock. But then I found better things to put on my wall, and that background being all buckled still bothered me. So what I did was I took the clock apart and I thought, well, maybe if I just took out the background, maybe replaced it with something that wasn't buckled, I could get it to work right again. I could get it to keep time the way that it should. Well, unfortunately, that's looking like more of a pipe dream because it's looking like the hands are permanently damaged. But I was able to glue it, or not glue it, I was able to put it back together, and I found a way to print basically this beautiful image, because basically all a clock really is, it's a frame with a picture that has numbers printed all around it. That's what a clock really is. So I decided that even if it never functions properly, because I think the second hand may have been damaged, bent out of shape somehow, and that's part of its problem. And so I don't think it'll ever work right again, but I can have it right twice a day and I can hang it somewhere and I'll have a pretty purple image. May not be the best quality, but for a clock that's only right twice a day, I think it's good enough. So I made me a clock, basically. I just didn't have the heart to take something on which I may have spent 12 or 13 bucks years ago, like maybe just 8 years ago, and just throw it in the trash, although most people would. So anyway, enough about that clock. What I'd like to talk about in this video, I want to title it Sleep Deprivation. And I don't know why. It's like I keep just expanding on what I said in my previous video. It's like I never get enough talking about things, so I just pick up where I left off. And I'd like to talk about that, how I've always had sleep issues all my life. And nothing seems to improve it. See, that's why I love the moon so much. And the train. You see, it's got my two favorite things, the full moon and the train. And of all things, it has a girl instead of a boy. And it's purple. So anyway, you know, I want to talk about my sleep issues and how that, I think my biggest obstacle in life, or one of my biggest obstacles standing in the way of me living a normal, healthy, productive life has been my sleep issues. You know, the fact that I basically have insomnia, okay? And I have always had sleep issues from the time when I was, you know, a little kid that should have been having, 10 or 12 hours of sleep. And like I say, my mom is in denial of it. She's in denial that I had frequent colds, which, really, it's not really that out of the ordinary, you know what I'm saying? Because it is very normal, you know, for a kid to be averaging 4 to 6 colds or more per year in childhood. And the reason it was so high in adolescence is because my sister was still in childhood. But as I've stated before, you know, sleep is a very key thing, is a very key factor. You know, and I believe that there are 3 reasons why I was getting such frequent colds in childhood. Yet now that I'm an adult, I basically, if I get one, it's kind of a bad year. I get about, like I said, 1 or less. So once every 12 to 15 months or 18 months or whatever. A little bit more than 12 months go by in between. So I think I've done pretty well as an adult. I've definitely improved, so that's a good thing. But I believe that there are 3 main reasons that I've talked about why I don't get frequent colds like I used to. Number 1, of course, is building my immunity, you know, getting older and my body getting more experienced at recognizing these viruses. Number 2, you know, the fact that I'm not having as much contact with other people, specifically children, okay, not having children, not working in schools, not being exposed to the people that are most likely to give me one. You know what I'm saying? So that the lack of the built up immunity, lack of exposure, and last but not least, sleep. Okay. Now, yes, I have a hard time sleeping at night. I can count on one hand the number of times that I've actually slept at night at this house, and it's either unexpected, like I wasn't actually ready for bed, I just fell asleep in the afternoon, or it tends to be a situation where I take medicine, you know, very early to try to get to sleep. And as I've stated before, my mom, you know, she's in such denial. Doesn't she doesn't want to admit to just how many colds we had growing up, both my sister and I, but especially my sister. She was the one bringing them to me, you know, from my 8th grade year onward. You know, almost the vast majority of them were from her. But she also does not want to accept the fact that Even if like I'm not gonna say she didn't try to get us to bed on time. You see, because children require more sleep than adults. The younger you are, the more sleep you need. So that combined with lack of previous exposure to viruses and poor hygiene in younger children, that all contributes to why children have so many more colds than adults. They need more sleep, they haven't built up as much immunity, and their hygiene isn't as good. They don't wash their hands. Okay, so all those things, are why I'm glad I don't work with children or have children. Um, and when you don't get as much sleep because you have to take care of your kids, guess what? You can't fight them off as well either. Um, so like, and the other thing, as I stated before, my mom just does not want to accept the fact that, yes, she may have tried to get us in bed, let's say by midnight or so. But I definitely remember that even on nights, where, she basically, she would send me to bed, tell me, go to bed. And I did. I did sometimes, get in the bed, but that didn't mean I went to sleep right away. Okay, I didn't necessarily fall right to sleep, especially as active as my brain is. And as much as I love the nighttime, the fact that I can see the moon and hear the train better at night, with the lack of noise and light in the sky. Just that in and of itself, it's hard for me to sleep um, when all these things are going on in my head. So yeah, just because I may have gone to bed by midnight, for example, that doesn't mean that I wasn't up all night thinking, listening to the train and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And especially, when my sister wasn't in school yet, mom would stay up all night with her and make noise, knowing that they could sleep in the daytime, while I was at school, and not even care if that still kept me up. Even, I might be in bed, but I was like just up listening to them and thinking. So anyway, sleep deprivation has been an issue all my life, but I'm glad that, at least at this point, not having a job and not going to school, at least I can sleep in the daytime if I can't sleep at night, which is unfortunately most of the time. So go ahead and post this video.